raining again. I'm up at the falconry centre feeding the birds. Shan't do a lot else today. This week's just going to be downtime for all the staff, including me, to a degree. Going to have a couple of days of cracking on, sort of trying to do a bit of maintenance for sure. Update. There's another one. Worse still. There's only a rat inside our back rooms of the centre. What's going on? So another mole. I'll keep digging that molehill off, see if it doesn't get any worse. If it starts spreading out again, like mole number one, it's in trouble. The rat, I love rats. I keep pet rats. I use pet rats as part of my educational team or employ them. But you can't have rats inside your property, and anyone that has knows the consequences. They chew, gnaw and attack and feed on anything they can. I mean attack as in your property. Worst of all, of course, if they're chewing through cables, then there's a fire risk as well. So the rat's got to go. So off to see Kyle later on for some rat catching equipment. It's only natural, isn't it? If it gets cold and you're an intelligent animal like a rat, you're going to want to go somewhere warm, i.e. in our places. It's not heated around there, but there are heat sources. And just like us, rats are experts at living anywhere, and they need shelter. A bit of warmth helps them, and of course readily available food. So if it can find any food in the back rooms, like the kitchen, we're done for. So yeah, a mole and a rat. But on that note, not only welcome to the vlog if you've not been here before, secondly, Happy New Year. It is my birthday, and to the rest of you, I hope you haven't got terrible headaches and hangovers, and if you have, at least you had a good New Year's Eve. Enjoy the rest of the vlog. Now there is a very special fish, native to the UK. This is Cotus gobio, or bullhead, and not very different from the American catfish that they call the bullhead. But the name is the miller's thumb because it looks like an old miller's worn and swollen thumb. It's a fish of clear water streams, but it does occur in some lakes and canals. And it grows to 4 inches long, and it lives under rocks on the bottom of the usually really healthy clear stream bed. It feeds on any kind of little invertebrates and things. This one is for education. I'd like to get some stone loach in here in this aquarium with it. Stone loach live in exactly the same habitat, but they're a long fish with barbels around the mouth. And they also live on invertebrates in the gravel and such like on the stream bed. Super common UK fish of my childhood. One of the many tiddlers you could catch sort of wading into shallow streams, lifting up rocks with a bandy net, a little fishing net. And you could catch these and admire them, and it obviously fueled, for me, helped fuel my love of fish. Sadly, it is now getting scarcer and scarcer, and to find a really big one is really rare because they just don't make it. They guard their eggs. The males turn really dark breeding colours. The feet, they get a really, lovely hollowed out underneath a rock. And a female, or more than one female, will lay a clump of eggs, and he'll guard them until they hatch and go off on their own. Unfortunately, it leaves his eggs and him incredibly vulnerable to one of the worst invasive species in the UK. Let's have a look at those. And here he is, the American red signal crayfish. Much bigger than our native white claw crayfish. And his claws on the males are probably 10 times the size. He's a detritivore. He eats the detritus on the riverbed, or the pond bed, or the stream bed, or the lake bed. Anywhere there's water in the UK, these have now invaded. They can travel across land on rainy nights. They can stand far more pollution than our native crayfish. They carry a plague, which they're pretty immune to, a bit like us having a common cold, and our crayfish have no immunity, and it kills them off. So they're killed by these crayfish, they're outcompeted by these crayfish, and these crayfish spread a disease that kills off our native crayfish. These spread to exorbitant numbers in any waterway. We're talking hundreds of thousands in any stretch of canal, river or lake. They eat as many fish eggs as they can find, and those bullheads and stone loach that live underneath rocks and spawn under the rocks are eaten as adults, babies, and especially as spawn and eggs. They've massively altered the ecosystem in the UK river and waterways. The only positive for some anglers, big predatory fish like chub, perch and barbel eat these when they're young and they've shed their skin and they're soft for a couple of days. They become a very rich protein source for the big fish if they make it and get big enough to eat these. Absolute nightmare. Invasive species, but like any animal, fascinating, beautiful, and of course none of it is their fault. These were brought to the UK to be farmed for food, and when their breeding ponds flooded, they managed to escape into waterways and spread from there. It just shows how humans can take an animal from one part of the world to another, and it becomes massively detrimental to its new ecosystems where nothing has evolved alongside it. Fantastic creatures though, but they've changed the British waterways just in my lifetime massively negatively. And fish like the bullhead, very much scarcer, and our own native crayfish, pretty much extinct now in most of Britain. These are our captive bred great crested newts from a long line of capture bred crested newts that go back before the Wildlife Act made it illegal to take these out of the wild. A proper captive bred stock, and I'm really proud of these. These are this year's 2021. It's now Christmas and they're really chunky little things. They've done really well. You can see that one's eating a worm, and there's lots more under there. All hiding away. And they're in an unheated barn, and basically what happens is these little guys are active once the temperature's around 8 degrees and feeding, and then when it goes down to about 5, they tend to just stay hidden away. In another couple of years, there'll be big, chunky, robust adults and ready to breed another generation. Absolutely fantastic. There's a few people got these, so it's always worth getting in fresh stock, of course, fresh bloodlines, so you're not just breeding sort of generations and brother and sister. That usually results in weak or animals that actually don't grow very large. That little fella there is scoffing that down. The great crested newt is right at the top few of my favourite British animals. And you've only got to see a male great crested newt in full breeding regalia to appreciate why. They're right there, right alongside adders, I think. These 2 inches long, that one. And in here is the mum of those little babies. And just like the wild ones at this time of the year, midwinter if you like, she's filling up with spawn and she's waiting for that warmer spring weather, and then she'll go from the terrarium that they're living in now into an aquarium with lighting and pond weeds, and she'll spend the summer with the male, breeding, laying eggs and rearing another generation. And when that comes, you'll definitely be seeing some footage of the beautiful males.
Good girl. So a couple of times a day now. Just calling her leash length from the block for a chick or two. And in the evenings we'll go into the mews. She'll have the rest of her dinner. Considering this bird was the most petrified bird I'd have ever experienced, even though she was an imprint. She really is starting to turn a corner now. Hey? I don't mind the noise. Well, I do mind the noise. I hate the noise, but with no neighbours, it's not a problem. I'm just not pushing her. I'm not pushing her. Everything's at a really, really slow pace. Really slow. Isn't it, darling? There's nothing else there. There's nothing else there. Good girl. Pretty little thing. But really, really slow. And we'll properly start training at the end of the hunting season. Hopefully she should be really settled by then. 2-year-old imprint that's started its journey with me absolutely petrified, and now she's starting to see me as a positive thing, which is what we want.
One thing that's really unusual here is to have a baby false water cobra of mine that is actually really feisty, and this little girl is definitely the feistiest one I've had for ages. I think I've been holding her for about 5 minutes and she's probably bitten me and just missed again about 5 times. Really unusual. They've got a bit of a reputation. Mine are normally pretty calm, chilled out things, but this girl, she's certainly got a bit of attitude. She's put a hood down now. She's hooded up like a proper little cobra lookalike. She's calming down. And it's always, pardon me, it's always the same thing. Gentle handling and not showing fear or being nervous. Just encourages their behaviour, or any bitey snake's behaviour all the more. Basically, if you flinch, jump, drop them and so on, you make them nervous, but also it instills the fact that their defensive behaviour, which is all defensive and intended to get rid of you, is working.
What are you making?
Corned beef hash, like Bob and Mortimer or whatever they are. Won't be casting no salmon, but I can do a corned beef hash.
Have you ever made this before?
What do you think? You just seen it. The dog's going to eat well. This is how crazy the climate is at the moment, really. So we've got a tortoiseshell butterfly here. He's got a damaged wing, bless him, but he's hibernating in the back room, as you'd expect for sort of the Christmas time. He's not going to be flying around. But then the flip side is, come and have a look at this. Primroses, wild primroses, flowering in the middle of winter. And it's kind of the same every year now in Britain, really. You get a lot of this kind of flowers sort of start flowering, or they don't stop flowering when they should have done long ago. Luckily, usually, not always nowadays, we do end up with a cold snap, January, February or March, and it does reset the biological clocks of these plants, and they'll then reflower and carry on in the spring as they should. But it is crazy, really. Primroses flowering at Christmas. Floods everywhere at the moment. It's really, really wet. But it's the norm now for the UK winter, wet and windy. Certainly, though, a welcome bit of brightness in this otherwise gloomy weather of an English winter. If you've watched the old channel, Raptor Exotics Falconry, you'll certainly remember this. Now, those of you that don't know, this is a cattle drinking trough which has been transformed into a outdoor enclosure for UK woodland reptiles and a few others. So it's got common lizards, and my slow worms live in here. Look at that, very naturalistic. They get sunlight, proper UV. There's a mesh on here to keep the jackdaws out from eating them. And what you've got is a fantastic naturalistic setup where they behave totally normally, but they become so tame that you can observe them without frightening them away. And this sort of thing, on a slightly different scale, is what we hope to achieve here at Icarus Falconry through 2022 for a variety of British reptiles and amphibians that people can come and see, understand, and hopefully love, and then we can grow that conservation for them. But for now, middle of winter, everything that's in there's brumating, hibernating, and the first sort of warm sunny days of spring will draw some of these animals out and we'll get to see them again. So keep an eye on the vlogs. There'll be plenty more of this kind of thing going on with actual reptile and amphibian life to see. For now, Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Do me a favour, subscribe. Thank you guys.